Ladies and gentlemen, Trump is in Beijing to meet with Xi Jinping, and something very big is happening right now. I don't think anybody seems to realize how big this actually is. But ladies and gentlemen, let's just put it into context here. Trump just personally assembled a team of Avengers, an entourage of the biggest billionaires across a wide range of industries: AI, chips manufacturing, finance, aerospace, the military-industrial complex. Literally all the big players just boarded Air Force One with President Trump and touched down in Beijing to meet with Xi Jinping. Benny Johnson had a funny video, the comparison between the welcome that Obama received when he went to China versus this standing ovation, this marching band and cheering, this display that was put on for President Trump. And just look at the difference. There is no youth military band, there is no chanting, nobody's waving flags for Obama, and it is just a world of difference. And Benny Johnson says it feels good to be respected again, and I couldn't agree more. They literally rolled out the red carpet for President Trump. I mean, that should tell you everything. So a very warm welcome. Xi Jinping, they are very inviting, for this meeting that's taking place. And a lot of people are trying to speculate exactly what is going down here. But according to NBC News, the fake news media, this is a 2-day summit with President Xi that starts tomorrow in Beijing, and it's the world's two biggest economies seeking to extend a fragile trade truce against the backdrop of the U.S. war with Iran. Trump told reporters while leaving the White House yesterday that he was aiming to have a long talk with Xi about the war with Iran, but that their meetings would largely focus on trade. And that's what I do think this is about. But I think it's a lot bigger than simply extending an existing trade deal, because what we have to understand is that China is in a fragile position right now. They're in a position of weakness, given the fact that we've taken their oil in Venezuela. The Strait of Hormuz is closed, so their oil imports are suffering, and their economy right now is very wobbly. So Trump is in a position to negotiate from a position of strength. He has a lot of leverage. So here's an ex-post, somebody making a prediction here, where they say that Trump and Xi are going to sit down for formal talks, and the big ask here is open China's markets to U.S. business directly, officially, on camera. 12 of the most powerful CEOs in the world are in the room or the building. Combined market cap of companies represented over $10 trillion. Just think about that. Every CEO on that plane needs something specific from Beijing: chip licenses, manufacturing access, supply chain agreements, financial market entry. If Xi says yes to even half of it, the trade war framework changes overnight. If Xi says no, 12 CEOs flew to China for nothing, and markets will price that immediately. But here's the thing. Most people are saying that the deal is already done. It's already been negotiated and agreed to before they even got there. And I do believe that, which is why I think Trump this week said you better buy stocks and crypto.
You better go out and buy stock now. Let me tell you, this country will be like a rocket ship that goes straight up. This is going to be numbers that nobody's ever seen before.
And so you heard it from the man himself, and don't take his words lightly. He wants to make America the crypto capital of the world. He's predicting that the stock market is going to soar through the roof as a result of these negotiations. Trump is making moves that people just don't seem to understand fully, but they will understand it soon when the markets react. And there is a big global shift that is taking place right now that we should all be getting into position for. Now, you guys know most Americans are in the same old Wall Street system: stocks, bonds, and mutual funds, controlled by institutions that they don't like crypto. They fought crypto every step of the way. But I recently made a partnership with Block Trust IRA, and they give you the perfect avenue to get in position for what I think is about to happen. So Block Trust has a fully managed crypto IRA, which means you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to watch the markets. Their AI-powered system handles the strategy and the execution for you around the clock. And your assets are not vulnerable. They're secured. They're insured. They're not held on some exchange left vulnerable. They're actually kept in cold storage. And all of this is happening inside of a tax-advantaged IRA. So you get to keep more of what you build. Now, I've got a special offer just for my listeners out there. If you go to nicklovescrypto.com right now, you can actually get up to $2,500 in free crypto funding when you open and fund a qualifying account. So go to nicklovescrypto.com so you can claim your bonus and learn more about how all this works. So go to nicklovescrypto.com. That's nicklovescrypto.com. Now, Bill O'Reilly has a very interesting input and a little hot take here about what Trump is up to in Beijing. I don't know if he has insider information. I'm sure he has connections to people in the administration. But this is where things get really interesting. Bill O'Reilly is essentially saying that Trump is going to Beijing to sit down with Xi Jinping and cut a deal to end the war in Iran by offering a better deal in terms of buying American oil. And this would reduce China's dependency, I'm assuming, on the Strait of Hormuz, which they now see as a big liability because the Strait of Hormuz can be closed until this conflict in Iran. This wasn't really something of consideration, but now even though they were getting heavily discounted oil, at what cost? If at any point in time there could be a closure of the strait. So Trump has a position of leverage here. China needs oil. They're hurting badly. We cut them off of Venezuela and the Strait of Hormuz, so they need an alternative. And Bill O'Reilly seems to think that this is going to be a big part of the negotiation strategy behind the scenes. Publicly, it's going to be all about trade, but behind the scenes, it's about the war in Iran as well.
It's bad for business. They don't want Hormuz. They don't want any of this. And I understand that President Trump is going to offer China an alternative oil buy. So they'll be able to buy from the United States.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Rather than Iran.
That's a great idea.
Okay.
No question about that.
All of
Much
that,
better than the come build your manufacturing factories here. I hope that's not true.
I don't care about the factories, but there was a reason 16 CEOs went on this trip, and that is to negotiate the beginnings of a major trade deal with the United States. That's why they were on the plane.
And so Bill O'Reilly's sort of framing this like a gamble. Like Trump is going to Beijing with the knowledge that China needs things that we have, and he's going to try to leverage that to get them to intervene and end the war in Iran and send U.S. companies in the stock market to the freaking moon, and prices coming down, et cetera, with the end of the war and with a big, massive trade agreement with China. So China, they need our technology. We have the most advanced AI chips and semiconductor technology on the planet, and they are blocked off from that, right? But they have the massive consumer market and the cheap and scalable manufacturing. And so we are going to try to crack open the Chinese market, give them access to some of our stuff, Western financial investment capital, economic growth, stability, and access to some of our technology. In exchange, we are going to, have rare earth minerals. We're going to have factory capacity that doesn't exist anywhere else at the same scale. And we have the weirdest relationship with China at the moment. We're both completely dependent on each other. We're both terrified of each other, and we're competing with each other at the same time. And while we're in competition with each other, we're completely incapable of fully separating from one another. And so this is where a deal takes place between two global superpowers. And this is going to be big, folks. I can't state that enough. And this post right here from Thomas A. Whitaker, I think really encapsulates the magnitude of what's going down here. He says, your money, your job, your retirement account, they all just got affected by what happened on a runway in Beijing this morning. Trump stepped off Air Force One in China with Elon Musk walking right behind him. 300 students waving American and Chinese flags. Gifts presented on the tarmac. A red carpet arrival ceremony. This is the first presidential visit to China in nearly 10 years. The last time was Trump himself in 2017. Here's why this hits your wallet directly. The U.S. and China are the two largest economies on earth. Every tariff, every trade barrier between them flows through to your grocery bill, your mortgage rate, your 401k. A warm Beijing welcome after years of trade war is not a photo op, it's a signal to every market on Earth. Musk didn't fly to Beijing for the scenery. He flew because deals are on the table. 17 CEOs made this trip. Tim Cook, Jensen Huang. That's not a delegation, that's a negotiation. The last time a U.S. president landed in China with this kind of reception, the S&P railed. The last time the U.S.-China relationships went cold, supply chains broke, inflation spiked, and your paycheck bought less. This visit is either the beginning of something that puts money back in your pocket or the calm before the storm. Pay attention, this is not a foreign policy story. So ladies and gentlemen, big things are happening. Stay alert, look alive, and pay attention and be prepared, ladies and germs. So with that said, we're going to keep an eye on this and see what ultimately comes out of it. In the meantime, be sure to like the video and subscribe. Turn those bell notifications on. Go to nicklovescrypto.com. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.